Your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too. That was a quote from Stephen King's It, which is the novel that we are discussing in today's episode of Book and Bitch. Welcome, my name is Raven Welch, and I'm here with my lovely co-host.
Hi, I'm Ginnye Kubel.
Hey. Hey. It's the third episode. This is our second time recording. And yeah, we probably don't have our shit together, but that's fine.
Well, lessons learned from last time. I said the word exactly like 900 times in the first episode. Lessons learned.
Yes, I don't know how to describe anything besides saying, oh yeah, it was really great. It was really good.
I loved it.
I was like, oh God. And I say 80 billion times, like every time I talk.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing. Even though I know consciously that I shouldn't.
Exactly.
It just pops in there.
It always does.
It's fine.
It's whatever. You guys are here anyways. Even with our little quirks.
You love the quirks.
You fucking love it.
Exactly.
Fucking love us.
That's what makes us lovable.
Yeah, you know where else you can show us your love? On Twitter and Instagram.
Yes.
At Book and Bitch Pod. I'm great at segues. That's what I'm here for.
I love it.
Where else can they find us? Ginnye?
Well, they can find me at glkubel_rights. That's WRITES.
Yeah.
Not like human rights.
Fundamental human rights, which we all deserve.
I know. I never even thought of that until you brought it up the other day, and I was like, no, wrong rights.
Yeah. They think they're going to your Instagram and your Twitter for, like, very, like, poignant political tweets, and you're like,
no.
Have some book recommendations,
and you know
bitch.
You know what all of my tweets have been lately? They've been like, check out the history of the comma.
You fucking nerd.
I know. Sorry if you wanted something more politically. It's mostly about the history of punctuation. Enjoy.
It's a good time.
It's very interesting if you ever want to know about the history of the comma, though.
Well, if you want Dungeons and Dragons content and anime content and maybe some book stuff, you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Raven_co-op, because that's where I am. But it's a lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's good stuff, though. I'll attest to that. It's very good stuff.
I think so.
I can retweet a lot of it.
You really do. And which is great. And it's a lot of selfies of me. And I'm going to say I'm pretty hot.
Oh,
so
I love them. I love the one the other day that was like, this look is so that people won't talk to me today. And I was like, how do I get that look every single day? Because I would prefer if nobody talked to me.
You need the thickest eyeliner, cat eye eyeliner ever. Because I don't think anybody talked to me that day.
Oh, see?
So
it was the leather jacket also.
Leather jacket, high bun, bangs, and the sharpest cat eyeliner that you can possibly do without cutting yourself in the process.
Yeah. Everyone was like, I'm going to go find someone else. So
yeah. Is there somebody here that we can talk to on your behalf? And I'm like, absolutely not.
I am the only one.
I am the only one, so don't do it. So you can find me there. You can also find Book and Bitch at our website, bookandbitch.com. You can also support us so that we can quit our jobs, because I don't know about Ginnye. I actually know that Ginnye likes her job. I hate mine, so let me quit. Give me money. So patreon.com/co-op the podcast.
I like my job, but I am not opposed to more fun so we can do more cool things for you guys.
Yes.
Like more content, more social media stuff.
Exactly.
You know, all the fun stuff.
All that shit. Okay, so yeah. Am I missing anything?
No.
You just like hitting stuff, don't you?
I know. I just realized I was like, I hit the table, I hit the mic at one point. I think I might have
haven't heard any of it through the headphones.
That's
though.
good.
I just see Ginnye like tense up because I've obviously like beaten her too much because she's like, Raven will yell at me if I make too much noise.
We did yell at the boys earlier. We're like, go to Starbucks or something. Get out of here.
I know. They were making way too much noise. And I can yell at them because I'm legally bound to one of them. So
yeah, it's your right.
It's my right as an American citizen. It's my GL Kubel rights.
You can take that. I'll let you have that.
I'll take it. Okay, so we are talking about It today as our novel. We are very excited to talk about those. This is the longest book we will probably ever read, and we will not read another long book. So if you tried to keep up with us and you were not able to, I apologize. It was my idea to read it.
Yeah, I think it was the Bargain Den that tweeted at us, and they're like, bless you for reading this. And at first I was like, oh, that's so sweet of them. And then later on I was like, oh my gosh, we need all your blessings and all your prayers to finish this book.
Please, help us, Jesus.
It was a good book. I'm not arguing that.
It was good. It was just it's so long to read in a confined timeline for a podcast.
Yes. Agreed.
But we made it through, and we liked it.
We did. We liked it.
We liked it, all capital.
Yes. That was very confusing throughout this whole process to say we finished it, and then everyone would be like, what
did you finish? It's like, all capital, clown.
Yeah. No. The clown.
The clown. Pennywise. So let me talk a little bit about Stephen King. I didn't do very much research. I got this all from Goodreads. I'm literally reading it verbatim. Hopefully this will give us a little bit of insight into the deranged mind of Stephen Edwin King, who was born the second son. I'm just getting right into it. I'm so talented.
I know. That was a good segue.
Was born the second son of Donald and Nellie Ruth Pillsbury King, which sounds like a really delicious, pastry.
I was about to say, I immediately thought of the crescent rolls that you pop in the tin.
Yeah. You have to bang the tin on the counter and it's
or get the spoon. That was always such an anxiety moment for me, was to try and pop those canisters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
mean, we would almost only use the counter to bust it open. So there would be times where you're just hitting it for 5 minutes straight because it just would not pop.
And you're like, please, I just want pastries.
I beg you, I just need Pillsbury Grand biscuits.
Delicious.
Yes. So those were his parents though. And his father left them when they were 2.
Oh.
Did that cause some sort of
childhood trauma?
Childhood trauma. Most people murder after that. Which eventually we're going to do a non-fictional book about a serial killer, because I'm obviously obsessed with serial killers. I know Ginnye loves a good murder.
I love murder mysteries. If I could end up like Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote, that's just my lifetime goal. That's all I want to do.
Yes, absolutely. And we did talk about moving to a secluded island, kind of, and buying a hotel and then just using it for murder mysteries.
Exactly. I would tell everyone there was a ghost there.
There probably is.
I mean, I'm going to assume any abandoned hotel has a ghost in it.
At least one.
Multiple, maybe.
Hopefully. I mean, that's how you get the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so childhood trauma. Stephen King's dad left when he was 2, and him and his older brother David was raised by his mother. Parts of his childhood, and I think a lot of his books are very strongly based on setting. And I think where he spent his childhood really kind of reflects on that. So he spent some time in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Oh, hey.
Hey,
I'm from the Indianapolis region, which is not too far from Fort Wayne.
Well, there you go. Are you also inflicted with trauma?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Unfortunately.
That's how you write great books, apparently.
Obviously. Where his father's family was at the time, and then he moved to Stratford, Connecticut, where eventually a lot of his books are basically strictly northeastern United States settings. Like It, for example, is based in Maine. But when Stephen King was 11, his mother brought her back to her childhood home. Oh, wait, no. Brought her children back. I don't know why, where they came from. Whatever. To Durham, Maine. Goodreads. Who is doing your editing? Who?
If you're looking for an editor.
I will take money, as will Ginnye.
Exactly. We'll edit the shit out of that.
The shit out of it. For good. Her parents, Guy, which I've always found the name Guy to be very problematic to me.
It's very French.
Is it really?
Yeah, Guy is a French name.
Okay. Guy and Nellie Pillsbury had become incapacitated with old age, and Ruth King was persuaded by her sisters to take over their physical care for them. Other family members provided a small house in Durham and financial support to the Pillsbury King family. After Stephen's grandparents passed away, Ruth, his mother, found work in the kitchens of Pineland.
What's Pineland?
I don't know, but it's a magical place, obviously, of pine.
Oh, no. I'm thinking
know.
like a dark...
Well,
I don't know.
Well, so
okay.
Mrs. King found work in the kitchens of Pineland, a nearby residential facility for the mentally challenged.
Ah, I knew it! I was like, that doesn't sound good.
The funny thing is I actually haven't read this because I'm really shitty at my job.
Oh, no.
And
you've been
I
busy.
said, the kitchens of Pineland, and that sounds like a beautiful camp for,
I was
like in Dirty Dancing, like,
Oh.
they're going to Pineland. No.
Okay, anything that has that, like, magical of a name is usually a terrible place.
Absolutely.
Irony.
Yes. So Stephen attended the grammar school in Durham and Lisbon Falls High School, graduating in 1966. Didn't realize he was that old. From his sophomore year at the University of Maine at Orono.
Oh, no.
I don't know if that's how you say
I was
that.
about to say I have no idea what that is.
Orono. I don't know. Whatever. I don't care.
Go to goodreads.com. It's on there.
It's on there. You can read it and you can decide what the hell this word is. He wrote a weekly column for the school newspaper, The Maine Campus, which, I mean,
my gosh.
Maine Campus, Maine, the
I
state.
love it.
I know. Ginnye is like, she's glowing over here
I'm really
at a
into
pun.
wordplay and puns. If you see any marketing out there in the world that involves a pun, I might have had a hand in it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And if you see any and you're like, I wonder if Ginnye is seeing this, at GLQble_writes. She's interested.
Yeah, send me your puns.
Send her
I
your
love
puns.
them.
Don't send me your puns. It's the lowest form of comedy.
Yeah, this is where we universally disagree. I love puns. I think they're great wordplay.
Yep, I think they're pointless. And so he was also active in student politics, serving as a member of the student senate. He came to support the anti-war movement on the Aurora campus, arriving at his stance from a conservative view that war in Vietnam was unconstitutional. He graduated in 1970 with a Bachelor of Arts in English and qualified to teach on the high school level. A draft board examination immediately post-graduation, which, Jesus Christ, that just is a problematic sentence, found him 4F. I think that means down to fuck. 4F.
Yeah, I was
don't
about to say, what does that mean?
On grounds of high blood pressure, limited vision, flat feet, and punctured eardrums. So he could not serve in the war.
Because he had all of these things going on.
Exactly. He was fucked up.
Oh, poor Stephen King and his flat feet.
Yes, and his poor flat feet. I also have flat feet.
Oh, you can not serve.
I can draft dodge.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
He met Tabitha Spruce in the stacks of the Fogler Library at the university, where they both worked as students. They married in January of 1971. As Stephen was unable to find placement as a teacher immediately, the Kings lived on his earnings as a laborer at an industrial laundry and her student loan savings, with an occasional boost from a short story sale to men's magazines, which is very similar to that of Bill Denbrough, kind of. Our main character in
Ooh,
it.
yeah. I've got notes about that.
You got shit. Okay, good. I love it. Stephen made his first professional short story sale, The Glass Floor, to Startling Mystery Stories in 1967. And throughout the early years of his marriage, he continued to sell stories to men's magazines. Many were gathered into The Night Shift, the Night Shift collection. That was my bad, not Goodreads. Or appeared in other anthologies. In fall of 1971, Stephen began teaching English at Hampton Academy, the public high school in Hampton, Maine. Running in the evenings and on weekends, he continued to produce short stories and to work on novels. Now, that is all I have, because I, again, suck at my job. But we all know since then, Stephen King has been known to publish, I don't know.
I mean, he's a crazy published author. I think I read, this was a
58
while ago.
novels.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I read somewhere one time that he publishes almost one novel per year.
Jeezy, crazy.
Which is crazy considering some people, take 5 or 6 years
to do anything.
Publish a novel.
Yeah, exactly. I know that, so he has 58 published novels, 7 are under his pen name, Richard Bachman, and then he has 6 non-fictional books. And he has written approximately 200 short stories, most of which have been published in book collections. So yeah, that's our boy Stephen King.
Yeah, he also has a lot of good material out there about how to be a better writer and how to be a better author.
Yep.
I think in one of my creative writing classes, we read like an essay from him about it's like top 10 tips from Stephen King on how to be a better writer. So he just has a ton of material out there.
For sure. It looks like his first novel. Can you guess what his first novel is?
Oh no, I have no idea.
I want you to try.
Can I Google a list of Stephen King novels real quick?
As long as it doesn't have a date, because then that's cheating.
Let's see.
It's a movie that's been adapted as well.
I have probably never seen it.
Probably not. Ginnye has not seen a lot of films. I don't know if we've talked about this. She still hasn't seen it. We were supposed to watch it before we recorded this podcast, and yet here we are.
Nope, I have never seen it. Although after reading the book, that may have been a good thing because the book started to give me nightmares.
Yeah. Ginnye got to like the first 300 pages and she was like, I started getting nightmares, and I'm like, nothing happened in the first 300 pages.
I started to have like night terrors of like clowns and things in dark closets.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It's like, it's not even scary yet. Just you wait. And then she messages me later and she's like, is this just a story about kids getting abused? And I'm like, actually, yeah.
Yeah, the entire book is about how these children are beaten up by other children, by adults, by the psychotic clown.
Yep.
Mostly I was like, these children need to be relocated.
Got fucked over. Yeah. They definitely got fucked over.
Yeah. Okay, I have no idea. My best guess is Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie.
Is it?
Is. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Carrie's the first one. And he's been known to write books such as The Green Mile,
Yep.
Cujo, like we said, Misery, which I love Misery. That's such a good book. Salem's Lot, Firestarter, which is a film that starred Drew Barrymore, like her first film.
Oh, I love Drew Barrymore.
I know, I love her so much. One of her breakout roles. The Dark Tower series, which has been recently like created into a film, and yada yada yada. He's done a lot of stuff.
This is really embarrassing, but a lot of my Stephen King references have come from friends because Joey Tribbiani is apparently a big Stephen King.
Friends.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Like us.
No, sorry,
Right.
the TV show, but also you.
Well, I mean, we don't make that many. Because I haven't actually, like, read some of his other, like, I haven't read The Shining. I haven't read, like, Pet Sematary. I think I've read a little bit of Cujo. But that's
Cujo?
it. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mostly remember it from the TV show Friends, because Joey Tribbiani makes a lot of references to Cujo, The Shining.
He does.
I think one of my favorite parts is he puts The Shining in the freezer so that it won't give him nightmares. Yeah. And I just love that idea for some reason.
Yeah,
I was like,
hilarious.
that's adorable.
Did you throw your Kindle into the your freezer?
Because it's an iPad.
Oh shit! Yeah, no,
I'm pretty sure it does not like being in the freezer.
I don't think it does, literally at all. Okay, so aside from that, yeah, Stephen King, he's still alive. He still has a huge effect on writing to this day. I think he's still actively writing, but he doesn't do it as much as much as he was doing it before, I don't know, his car accident. He got into a car accident in like 1999.
Ooh, I did not know that.
Yeah. I don't know how that really affected him. But, yeah.
I'm still in that camp of people where I believe things that have happened in the writer's life sometimes show up in their stories or influence their stories in some way.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people try and read books purely for the work in question and not like the author's backstory, but I'm still very much in that camp where I think things infiltrate.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, so you were telling me before, because I didn't know this, when Stephen King was writing it, he was on coke.
Yes. I found an article where I think he had done an interview with the Rolling Stones. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, I battled addiction for a long time. And from the years of this to this, I was heavily influenced on coke. And then somebody traced that back and said, hey, between those years, you were writing it.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you know exactly when he's writing it, too, because he puts it in the book, like, at the very end, so.
Exactly. And I mean,
1981 to 1985, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, you can even kind of trace it back to the publication date and say, I know it takes Stephen King a fairly short time to write novels, and this was published on this date, so he was probably...
Yeah, at least a little bit on coke. If he was on coke when it was published, he was probably on coke when he wrote it. So, yeah. So let's get started on discussing the book.
Ooh, I love it.
Okay. What questions do you have for us, the host?
Ooh, well, I have a ton of questions, but I think the biggest one that I want to touch on was I was very interested in the layout of the story and that it was a story that was being told by other stories.
Yes.
Like, there were so many different elements that were interweaved. It was the story of the children, and then it was the story of the children as adults. It was the stories of the children's parents.
Yeah.
It was the stories of the town's past.
Mm-hmm. It was Mike trying to come up with what has happened in the city or in the town forever.
Yes.
Which was very interesting. And, like, some parts, like, you don't even have... Mike is, like, almost kind of your narrator. For most, I think the majority of the story, Mike is your narrator.
He's like the chronicler.
Exactly. He's the one that's getting all the stories. But then there are some moments where you don't even have, like, your go-to narrator. Like, you just have this kind of...
like, bits and pieces of other people's consciousness.
Exactly.
Or, I think
storytelling.
And there's even parts where it was like it was being told through the lens of like a fairy tale or a myth even.
Right, yeah.
So it was like a story that was composed of other stories and being built together with those. And I found that really interesting for some reason.
And it works really well with the story because, let me do a synopsis of it. I totally forgot that that's what we do here on
we
this
got so
podcast.
excited.
I got so excited. Okay, so if you have never seen it is the story of a group of children and that subsequently the group of adults once they grow up. And basically one of them's brother, Georgie, gets murdered by, from the beginning is a clown. A creepy clown in a sewer. Basically, they get involved because now a bunch of kids are going missing and getting murdered. And you slowly find out that this has been happening over years. Like, the city of Derry, Maine has had multiple murders, huge catastrophic events that have happened. And it seems like the world has no idea that it's ever happened.
Yeah.
And so it's basically these children, and then when they're adults, 27 years later, that you're really kind of getting their battle against evil. It's very much like good versus evil, perception versus kind of ignorance, things like that that's going on, and that's kind of like their fight throughout the entire thing. And yeah, I think that that's a good enough synopsis because I feel like most people know what it is about.
Yeah.
He's a shapeshifter. It can change into many different shapes. He corrupts kind of basically everything in the town. Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything?
No, I think that's about it without spoiling anything.
He tends to take the shape of whatever is on their mind. So he's also a mind reader, basically. And I will go ahead and say this story has a lot of creationism kind of pulls to it. It pulls from a lot of creationism stories. So not just Adam and Eve, Jesus, yada, yada. Not Jesus, but God and that whole creation story. But then
I would say even further back
way
than
back.
The creation of just Earth and humanity in general.
Right, exactly. Because it did remind me a lot of kind of his... like mythos is coming from like Native American stories and things like that. So, and Stephen King pulls a lot of Native American like kind of history and mythos into other stories of his as well. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, a predominant Native American kind of legend is that the earth is supported on the back of the turtle. And the turtle is such a predominant figure in this story that it's hard not to make that connection and say, oh, I see where you borrowed that from.
Exactly. So that's basically the story. Can you think of anything else?
No, other than it's just the kind of the fight against good versus evil.
Well, and so the other part about it is the book is not in order. It's not like in the films. It's chapter 1, which is about the kids, and then it's chapter 2, which is about the adults. It is strictly like, this chapter is about young Richie, and this chapter is about old Beverly. Old Beverly.
Good Beverly.
And then this chapter is about Mike, who's trying to compile information about what has happened in the past. Big explosions, huge fires that just happen to correlate with the 27-year mark.
The cycle.
The cycle when it needs to feed.
Yeah.
Basically. It's kind of what you find out.
The timelines are definitely very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of jumping back and forth, and it's also a lot of different characters' perspectives, because you even get perspective from, like, Henry Bowers, who is very much an antagonist.
Literally the worst character of all time.
Yeah.
Hate him so much. Worse than Chase Andrews.
I was about to say, we should start a list of characters that we hate and start ranking them.
Charles Andrews is now way below Henry Bowers, who is number 1.
Yeah, well, this was actually a common critique of King's novel, is that the children in some ways seemed idealized and not exactly realistic.
Oh, absolutely.
And I would agree to that to the extent of the violence that happened between them and other kids. And I'm like, man, when I was growing up, I don't remember anything ever being that violent between me and other children.
Okay. All right. Counter. Derry isn't your hometown.
That is true.
It's not my hometown.
I grew up in the Midwest.
Yes, and I grew up in the South, and so, like, I mean, I'm not saying the South is violent, but I do remember, like, kids got beat up, like, it happened. Like, I lived in, like, outside of Atlanta, so there was, like, violence. However, Derry is corrupted by this force of it, and so that's kind of something that comes up very often, is just how corrupted and how, like, people would just start killing somebody. Like, you ran a stop sign, they would just, like that story that they tell you where it's like these people and they're like gangsters and they're on the run and they end up in Derry and they end up at like this gun shop and they're trying to get ammo.
And the guy's like, yeah, I'll sell it to you, come back in a day.
Yeah, and then he gets the entire town who just fucking murders them, like straight up kills every single one of them. And like at one point, so a big theme in this novel, which I will say, if you have any triggers for abuse, I would say even necessarily like rape or anything like that, this book may not be the best for you to read. I think the movie is slightly better because they kind of conceal a lot of what Stephen King definitely wrote. But there's like a moment where Beverly's father is like coming after her, and they've been in this kind of moment with it, and they're like, I know that if he catches up to me, he will kill me. He has no control over who he is anymore. And that's what Derry does to you. So I think that's definitely what happened to Henry Bowers.
Yep.
I talk about it in the book a lot too, and I think that when it comes to literally any of these kids, whereas in our childhoods, obviously a kid would say, okay, I'll get in trouble. They do not feel this way anymore because Derry is totally just off the fucking charts crazy.
Yeah, and it took me a really long time to realize in the novel that this thing, it was corrupting the town. Mm-hmm. It was even before I sent you that message, or after I sent you that message, because before I was like, man, what the hell is wrong with these people? They're like beating their children are beating each other, like people are so abusive. And then along the way I started to realize, oh, it's not exactly them.
Yeah, I think it is partially Henry Bowers because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, his father was also super, crazy and abusive.
Yeah.
And something else that I found interesting is if you look at the children in their adult lives, a lot of them tended to marry or interact with people that were very similar to their parents. Like Beverly marries Tom, who's very similar to her abusive father.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a Beverly thing. Eddie too. Eddie Casbrack married somebody that's almost exactly like his mom, which we can get into. Ooh. This part of the story, which is my favorite, is that the idea that kind of they're in this like time loop. It's almost like a stasis that they're in, where it's like so just a heads up, everybody. I don't know if you know this, but the kids don't kill it. They don't. They kind of take them out. Like, they do a really good job at just, like, fucking them up.
Yeah.
But after that, I think their life is just in this stasis where they're growing old, but
not making progress.
They're not making progress because here's the other thing. Bill had feelings for Beverly growing up. He marries somebody that is basically Beverly.
Yep. Except for maybe like a few features. Like I think they said Audra was a little bit shorter than Beverly and a little bit thinner, but still.
And like an amazing actress. Which is like, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of it, you're like, okay. But also, like, a lot of strings are being pulled, and I want to get to that, like, later. But, like, Ben, too, he was in love with Beverly, and he doesn't marry anybody. He doesn't move on.
Nope. He's just this bachelor architect that's just doing his own thing and flying back to... What's the town?
BBC? Oh, he was in Nebraska.
That's what it was. He was in England designing something for the BBC. And then he would fly back every weekend to Nebraska to drink at this one particular bar. And in a way, I kind of love it. And at the same time, I'm like, that sounds super inconvenient.
You're so frivolous.
You can just find a bar in London.
Our boy Ben is extra as hell.
Yeah, I love it though.
I love Ben. I think Ben is like, out of like all the characters, Ben is my favorite.
I guess I didn't pick a favorite.
Oh, you should. I always like picking favorites. I think Richie in the films was always my favorite, but in the book, he's problematic.
Yeah, for a long time, it was hard for me to differentiate between Eddie and Richie. They seemed both very kind of like, what do I want to say?
I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, they're almost larger than life in their reactions. But Richie, every other word, he's doing an impression, which is different in because I read the audiobook because I can't read 1,200 page book in my schedule, guys. I'm sorry. But they distinguish when it's Richie and he's doing a very offensive voice.
Yeah, a lot of them I read and I was like, ooh, interesting.
Oh, you
can't do that.
Right, exactly.
But it's also, I think in an interview I had read with Stephen King, he was responding to one of the scenes in which the children do some questionable acts. And in it, he had responded, well, back in, I think it was 1986, this book was published. He's like, back in that time, this wasn't such a huge controversy. But since then, times have changed, and now this has become much of a bigger deal. And so you need to take it in the context of which it was written and not when you're reading.
Exactly. When Richie does say something really offensive, like his friends are like, hey. And he doesn't do it when they're adults. So I think that is a good point to make as well, where it's like, okay, he grows, like, because like in the beginning it's in the 50s, late 50s, and time was much different then. And so with the new film, which I really appreciate, they bring it to, these kids are in the 80s when they're kids and they're present day.
Oh, okay. So part 2 will be like more modern.
It'll be modern times. It'll be 2019 or 2017 even, since I think the original, I can't remember when the part 1 said what year they were, but yes. And so I appreciate that kind of change that they're making. I think that the films kind of makes the best kind of decisions with message, especially the new ones. Because one thing that's not in the original movie with Tim Curry, which is amazing.
Oh, Tim Curry.
I know, I love him. He's terrifying.
Exactly.
But one thing that they add in is kind of like the violence to the gay community during that time in the 80s.
Yeah, because that was a big thing in the first part of the book, and then it kind of died out towards the later half of the book.
Right.
But that was a huge theme in the beginning.
Exactly. And they didn't put it in the first book. I didn't know that it even existed in those books until recently. Like, people were coming out with articles and they're like, okay, chapter 2 is actually going to have like the actual violence against the gay community and how much of a part of the setting that was. Because in the 50s, they really focus on like violence against blacks.
Yeah, it was very much racism focused.
Exactly. And then I think it is really important to show how the gay community was treated during that time. And the fact that they removed that from the film is kind of a disjustice, I guess, unjust kind of way to
and
portray
you're kind
it.
of just glazing over it at that point.
Right.
And you're like, well, it was in the book, but
we're just not going to
include it.
There is one part of the book which we are not going to discuss.
Is it the part I'm thinking about?
It is the part you're thinking about. We're not going to discuss it, but it has been removed from everything because it did not make sense
to anyone.
To anyone. To literally anything. I think I posted a tweet that was like, what is happening? I get to this. If you have read the book, you know what part I'm talking about.
It's towards the end. They're in the tunnels. They're trying to get out.
They're children. And they're doing things that's inappropriate in a tunnel, and it has nothing to do with the story. And so you're just reading it, and you're like, this really, you could have done literally anything else, Stephen King. I think that is my only critique of the book, is this made no sense to the story. It wasn't something they needed. It did, again, I do not appreciate how he writes female characters.
Ooh, that's one of my talking points.
Good. Because this is one of those moments where it's like, so the only female member of this group as a child, the only thing she has to offer is her sexuality and like the budding like womanhood of herself, and that's what she's offering to get them through this ordeal. And I'm getting very close to talking about it, but it made no sense, and I think it just did a disservice to Beverly's character entirely.
Yeah, well, if you read any of the critical reviews of Stephen King's It, that is the one thing that everyone pulls out was, A, this part made no sense.
Made zero sense.
B, it also goes back to that theme of he's idolizing children in a way that's not realistic. Like,
right.
What 11-year-old would, think to... I'm very close to spoiling it,
right.
But
it's like...
Why would that be a solution for any
solution.
An 11-year-old?
I'm going to tell y'all right now, when I was 11, that was not what I was thinking about.
I can't remember what I was thinking about at 11, but I'm going to guess it was like Lisa Frank stickers.
Absolutely.
Or things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. So, soccer. I was thinking about my soccer team.
Yep.
So, I mean, and we can jump into kind of like the portrayal of women in this story.
Yes.
Because I do think, I'm like thinking about kind of how Beverly is treated in the story. Because she is the center of most of their affection. Yes. And then she is the center for the most amount of abuse.
Yes, and she's also the one, without spoiling it, that does the most damage to it the first time around with the slingshot.
Oh, yeah. I think that was, like, I think the point with, like, the slingshot, too, is, like, they all work together to make that bullet, and then what she contributed was, like, her aim. So she was, like, the only steady one, which maybe goes back to kind of that scene that we're not going to discuss. She's the only one that can bring them all together and clear their minds and, like, focus it all, but it's stupid and I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm all for, girls taking the lead and taking the charge, it seemed almost a little bit forced. Like, why is she the only girl in the group? Are there no other girls in Derry?
Why is she the only one that literally all of them are in love with? Y'all don't have different taste in women?
Yeah, because that's a big thing, too, is they all start out saying, I love you, Beverly, and they, like, go around in a circle and say it, and she doesn't reciprocate until the end.
Right.
Yeah, right?
Well, and so...
Why aren't they saying I love you to all the other ones, too?
Well, in each person, I think, aside from Mike and Stanley, those are the only two, I'm not entirely sure, have like moments in their backstory where they're talking about how lovely Beverly is and how attracted to her they are and how like she gives them like, it's just, I think that personally is unrealistic because it's like she can be really pretty, but the fact that all of these little boys all have a crush on her, that doesn't make any sense to me.
And you know what's also really interesting about that? Mike Hanlon is the only African American boy in the group, And Stan Uris is the only Jewish boy in the group. The rest
Absolutely.
are all Christian white boys who love Beverly Marsh.
Totally. That is like, I just realized.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize it until you were naming them all, and I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. No. And like all the other women in the story are either pushed aside or used as a way to further more abuse, like Audra. She's just kind of a ploy. Like she has moments where she's strong and she's like, I'm going to do this for my husband because I love him and I need to see what's going on. And then it just like furthers more abuse.
Yeah. She's used as a pawn in the grand scheme of things and not as a player.
Which is probably also kind of a point that Stephen King is making, because I'm also thinking like all of their affection for Beverly. Like, so you have the opposing hatred of it. Of that character. But then you also have the turtle. So what is the turtle doing to kind of counteract that? He's keeping them all together. Maybe it's through the love of Beverly. Like
a single entity that's attracting all these other entities.
Exactly. The slicing the hand, the bond that they have together, that's obviously the turtle. Like the turtle helps them throughout the book. In like ways like that where he's bringing them together. I also read something. So I don't think that this is a spoiler because it happens within the first like 2 chapters of the book.
Yeah, I would say no.
So there is suicide in this book. Stanley kills himself. The adult Stanley kills himself in like the first couple chapters.
Yeah, it's very soon.
It's very quick. As soon as he gets the call that it is back, he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I was reading somewhere that someone else, this is somebody else's idea entirely off of Reddit, that the turtle kind of willed that to happen because he knew that Stanley was the weakest link in their bond.
Oh, and they've mentioned that throughout the book.
Through the entire book.
He's always like the dissenter that, says we shouldn't be doing this.
Exactly.
I don't want to do this.
Exactly. Oh, and I loved, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. His whole idea of fear was just so original to me because he's like, I can be scared. I cannot be dirty. And like that was like the reason why he could not handle like going back to it and just being so filthy. And for that to be a reason why he couldn't move on, like couldn't go through with it. I was just like, that's crazy. I mean, it's perfect. I mean, it's perfect, but it's also sad and heartbreaking and terrible.
Yes, but so his suicide was very much a clean death for him then. He created it
clean death,
on his terms in water, which is always symbolically something that's pure and cleansing. I hope that didn't spoil it for anyone.
If it did, I don't really care. It's like people get mad. Have you seen P.S. I Love You?
Oh, yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Well, I watched it because Gerard Butler was in it.
I love Gerard Butler, but I remember this one time I posted something on like Tumblr, whatever, like a really long time ago. And they were like, how dare you ruin this movie? And I'm like, the movie is about him dying.
Yeah.
How did I ruin that?
Also, it's a book.
It's
been out forever.
Yeah, it's in the trailer. They go to his funeral.
Yeah. Get over it.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Okay, what else do you want to talk about? Because I feel like I'm like jumping all over the place because I loved it very much. I will probably write a horror novel.
Oh, do it.
I love it.
Okay, so this isn't anything I have an answer for, but something that I've been trying to find and couldn't, so if anyone out there knows it, let us know. But where the hell did the character Pennywise the Clown come from? Because it is just a reflection of your fears. So where was the original Pennywise the Clown from?
That is a really good question. And I think there is... Well, I mean, so he's been there the whole time because when you think back to, like, they're looking at, like, all these pictures in, like, Mike's dad's album that he's compiled from, like all over town and all these different times. But there's a woodcut that is of, like, the main town. And in the woodcut is a clown that is Pennywise the Clown. And that was dated back to, like, a fuck ton long ago. And I mean, it was around because when they were doing that Native American smoke ceremony.
Oh, yes.
They like go back to when he was. So it's like obviously the entity came first, but when did he become like the clown, Pennywise the clown? When was that? And I think in like the trailer, the old woman,
part 2.
Yeah, for part 2, the old woman, and this will probably help because I mean I don't remember specifically if this was in the book, but she talks about how her father.
Yes. It was in the book because I remember reading it and I was like, I've seen this before. And then it finally clicked, oh, it's because it's the trailer.
Yeah. And
for part 2.
Her father was performing in a circus. But I don't know if that's necessarily reflects back to when he first came up as a clown.
Yeah. I was just very curious about that because it as an entity just reflects back to you what you're most afraid of. So where did it come up with this character? Who was the original Pennywise?
That's not true, though. It doesn't show what you're most afraid of. It's showing what is on your mind. And so I think he's trying to lure children for feed because they're easy. And he talks about that in the book. He was like, I usually go for children because they're the easiest.
And I take the shape of a clown because that's what they're most attracted to.
Exactly. But remember when they're in the restaurant and they get the fortune cookies.
Oh, yeah.
And out of the fortune cookies comes literally whatever they're thinking about. And Richie was thinking about his eyes because he had his contacts in and they were itching. And there goes an eye. And then Bill was thinking about the next creature in his next novel. And that was in the
fortune cookie.
In the fortune cookie. So I think when they're young, for sure, when he's like terrorizing them, he appears as their fears. Like he appears as the teenage wolf, and he appears as Frankenstein
or a leper, or
the leper, which is very much an Eddie
disease
fear. Yeah, but like he doesn't have to necessarily appear as something that they're scared of.
Okay.
Because I don't think, like, when you're thinking back to Georgie, like, he was trying to lure Georgie into the sewer drain.
Yeah, that's true.
And he had a balloon.
We
all float.
I know, I'm never going to be able to look at another balloon again.
No, I was at the mall a couple of weeks ago, like, while I was actively listening to the book, and there was just, like, a balloon.
Did you get triggered?
I got so triggered. I was like, why would you just have red balloons? I feel like companies should know at this point. You can't have just a singular red balloon just in the hands of a creepy baby, because all babies are creepy. Even yours. Don't think yours isn't creepy.
They always come out like wrinkled and alien looking.
An old, like Benjamin Button disease, but in reverse.
Yeah.
Made an Office reference.
Benjamin Button in reverse. So you're aging normally?
Yeah. Good shit. Okay, what else?
Let's see. What else did I have? Ooh, so this is something that I'm always suspicious of. I'm always suspicious of writers who write characters that are also writers.
Oh, I fucking hate it.
I feel like it's a very much egotistical ploy that's like, I am this character.
Hey,
Parts
look,
of
I'm
me.
Bill. I'm Bill Denborough.
Yeah, and it's even more suspicious, too, that he's like the main character.
He's who everybody loves. And which is another thing. Okay. I was thinking back on the turtle thing again and how he puts them all together. And I think he focuses all of his, like, power into Bill. Because that's who, when they're in the tunnels originally, it's Bill who is the one that's kind of killing it. Yeah. Doing a lot of damage to it in the tunnels. But, because I was thinking about, what's their bike called?
Their what?
The bike. His bike.
Oh, Silver.
Silver. Yes, that makes sense. So Silver, how did he get Silver? Why did he have Silver? Why did Silver have so much power? It is all the turtle. How did he get Silver when he was an adult?
And just found it in a random junk store and...
Yep, and just happened to be that thing that he needed at that one point, which I'm not going to say so I don't spoil anything. But, yeah, like, it's all about the turtle. It's all turtle versus... it. Yeah, exactly. Which sounds so fucking crazy if, like, you have no idea.
Versus the turtle.
Yeah. If you have no idea what we're talking about, they're like, why do they keep talking about the turtle? Which is how you feel in the, like, when you're reading the book, too. That's how I felt. I was like, what the fuck is this turtle?
Oh, yeah, because they keep referencing it in the beginning of the book without giving any context to it. They're like,
zero context.
I heard the turtle's voice, and you're like, okay, what does that mean?
What the fuck is the turtle? No, yeah. No, it's good. But yes, let's talk about Bill, because... his character is very, I'm going to say it's not, this is why I don't like Bill. I feel like a lot of people probably like Bill, but I thought his character was kind of boring because he's the obvious leader.
Yeah. It's very predictable.
It is very predictable. And, like, I appreciate more of the times when, like, Richie is, like, protecting them, or Ben is doing something to protect them, or
even Eddie.
Eddie for sure.
Eddie
oh my
steps
gosh.
up a lot of times, and I know. Poor buddy.
But yeah, no, like when all the other characters are doing kind of having their moments, I find that that's more effective in kind of telling the story and having them be the heroes than just how much focus Stephen King put on Bill. Mm-hmm. Which I think the only good part for me for Bill's development was his stutter.
Yeah, it humanized him almost to a point.
Yeah, and it, like, when he's a kid, it kind of goes away. Like, he realizes kind of what he needs to do for himself to kind of get to that moment where he knows that he can defeat it to the extent. And then when he's an adult, it comes back.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they need to be where they were when they were kids, like, kind of in that mental...
Well, it's almost like they've come full circle and they're back at the beginning now.
Yeah, and they're having to, because he hadn't stuttered in, I think he
27
said,
years.
Yeah, I think it was like 20 or 15 years, because he, like, lost his stutter when he was in, like, high school. Mm-hmm. And so when he ends up getting it back and kind of has to go through all of that again when he fights it the last time, and then after that when he's, like, kind of coming to terms with, like, everything that's happened and he loses the stutter again. I find that part to be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Bill?
I'm just always suspicious of when writers write other characters that are also writers. I'm like, that seems very egotistical. They could have literally any profession in the world and you've chosen for them to be a writer.
Well, how
like
many
yourself.
books out there are that are based on fucking writers? How many books by Stephen King? Because The Shining.
Yep.
Never
Misery. Read it, but I know the reference.
Yep. Misery is also about a writer. If you haven't seen, I've only seen the movie, but it's the writer and he gets kidnapped by Kathy Bates. So
I love Kathy Bates.
I know she's so good in the movie too.
Ooh.
So yeah, like he writes a lot about authors. I think it has to do with just really how egotistical Stephen King is.
Or maybe it's like a catharsis thing for him, like.
Maybe he doesn't know anything else. Like, he just knows kind of, like, the psyche of a writer because that's who he is and he can't put himself into anybody else.
That's very true.
Which could be, I mean, he can't write women well. Can write men okay, but he can't write women well probably because he has no idea how women think.
Maybe that's why there's only one female character and she's very... I like Beverly a lot, but she is very, like, two-dimensional. She isn't so well-rounded as a female character.
I agree. She's just... I think you're just supposed to feel bad for her and like where her life has gone, because like everybody else's lives are better, but hers is like she has money, but then it's still the same.
But she's married to an incredibly abusive, maybe even psychotically abusive husband.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking crazy dude.
He's just not normal abusive. He's psychotic abusive.
It's just you just kind of feel bad for like her character in general, because it's like there could have been so much more for you, but your author doesn't know how to write women.
Sorry, Beverly.
Sorry, Bev.
We'll rewrite you in a fan fiction. You'll be great.
Absolutely. I will get on that as soon as I don't have 80 million things to do.
Exactly.
The story from Beverly's experience.
Perspective.
She gets, it's that moment in 1950 whatever, and they're in the tunnel, and they're like, oh no, what are we going to do? We can't get out. And she's like, let me think of something else.
Yeah, we're just going to go this way.
Yeah, we're all going to believe. We're going to hold hands, and we're going to believe.
Exactly.
So yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about?
No. The only other thing I had maybe was this was the first time that I've ever listened to a book on audiobook.
Nice.
That was a very different experience for me.
Welcome to the wide world of audiobooks, which is where I basically have to read all my books.
I say I always like to read the physical book because I'm very much a visual person.
Yeah.
But for this one, it was
necessary.
So lengthy in order to do it. I had to also listen to the audiobook. But it's very interesting to hear the nuances between somebody speaking the word and reading the word and processing it in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. I will say for the next book that we talk about, I listened to that on audiobook, but I read the beginning of it in novel form. And I do think that that it really changed my perspective of how I felt about the book when I heard the audiobook, and I didn't enjoy the audiobook as much because it really just takes away of what you interpret the narrator to be, really.
Yeah.
And so
I think for me, a lot of it is I like seeing what the writer does to convey certain things through their style of writing. Whether that's use of italics or quotations or how they structure the physical writing of it. So I always find that part very interesting. But listening to it was definitely a different experience because I think I got a better feel for the characters and their personality just hearing someone else's voice enact them.
Yeah. Saying something ridiculously offensive.
Yes. Mostly Richie Tozier.
Yes. Mostly Richie Tozier, which if you are reading the book and you have to do his impressions, I feel like that's almost worse. Yeah. His Irish cop impression was really good. And I did enjoy hearing that on audiobook.
Oh, man, I can't remember which one it was, but when I got to the end of it, the audiobook, they were like, also read this, or also listen to this by Stephen King, narrated by James Franco. I was like, I bet that one is good as hell because James Franco is messed up as shit.
Probably high as hell reading this book, and he's super fucked up.
And he loves it.
So yeah.
Oh, stop. That's not what I wanted.
That's illegal. We just do our own audiobook.
So, fun fact, somebody that I told about this podcast thought we were like another version of Audible, and we were just reading the book.
We're just reading
the entire
books.
Podcast. I was like, that's a good idea, actually.
Hello. Welcome to Book and Bitch's production of It.
Yep. Starting from the beginning.
From the beginning.
1.
I don't remember what the beginning of it was. How it went.
I would have to go back to it. I can't remember what it was either.
All right, let's shut this thing down.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, so don't forget you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Book and Bitch Pod, and we'd love you forever and ever if you left us a review and a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love you very much. Please.
Yes, please review us. Tell us how much you love us.
How much you love us.
If you don't love us, we don't want to hear about it.
Go away. We hear enough of it from our parents. Just kidding. Our parents are very lovely people, and they love us both a lot.
That is true. Although my mom keeps asking how she can download this to her shuffle. And I'm like,
She's going to hear this later when she finally figures out how to download it onto her shuffle.
Or one of my more tech-savvy relatives are going to be like, did you know?
Your daughter's talking shit.
I'm sorry, Mom. I love you. I'll show you how to download it later.
So yeah, you can find us there. You can also find us on bookandbitch.com and at patreon.com/co-podcast. Ginnye, tell us where they can find you on the internet.
They can find me on the gram and also on Twitter.
The gram.
Yep. GLQ_rights. Remember, not human rights. Rights as in...
We have none of those here.
No.
Because we're women. Just kidding.
Oh, damn.
I'm just kidding. No, I hate that.
That just got super political. I love it. Okay. Maybe teaser for next time. That'll be a big theme of our next book.
Well, I did want to talk about, so our next book, if you want to read it, it's a lot shorter, you guys.
It is.
Is The Flamethrowers by Rachel Kushner. And you can give that a listen, or give it a read, and then you can hear what we have to say about it next week, because I have words.
Yep.
I got words.
I've got bullet points.
She got bullet points.
We'll go through those.
Yes. But you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Raven_co-op. And yeah, we're really excited. We actually got to talk about the next books we're going to read, so we're going to add that to our calendar. So again, look at bookandbitch.com for those announcements, and then also on Twitter and Instagram. Because they're coming.
I know, and I'm so excited. They're going to be so good.
All right. Final quote from It is, or so Bill Denbrough sometimes thinks on those early mornings after dreaming, when he almost remembers his childhood and the friends with whom he shared it. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you guys.
Bye.